This is the Resistance Report for February 2nd, 2017. Good evening. Well, every day now, it's almost hard to know where to start. One of Donald Trump's favorite techniques, and it's the technique of, let's say, demagogues throughout history, has been to do exactly the opposite of what he says he's doing, but in Donald Trump's specific instance, often it means claiming that he is praising, for example, a constitutional right. At the same time, he is trampling on that right. So, for example, today at the National Prayer Breakfast, he went on and on about the importance of religious toleration, religious freedom. At the same time, he has a ban on Muslims, and it is very, very clear that Donald Trump and Steve Bannon, the Trump-Bannon administration, are hell-bent on creating the impression in the public's mind that Muslims are dangerous. That's what he said during the campaign and what he continues to say. So Donald Trump, on one side, at the prayer breakfast, talks about freedom of religion and tolerance, and at the same time, he is concocting a Muslim plot that is not only dividing us, but is violating the Constitution's First Amendment ban on the establishment of a religion. Other things that he's done just the past 24 hours, or maybe 46 hours, hard to keep track. He asked Jerry Falwell Jr., the head of Liberty University, a evangelical Christian university, to head a federal task force on federal regulations of universities, of higher education. He also obviously is supporting Betsy DeVos, who might still get through, and she is his education pick for the education department. She wants taxpayers to fund religious schools. And the list goes on and on and on. There is no wall between religion and the state for Donald Trump. There is no freedom of religion and freedom of expression in a religious state. And yet that's what Donald Trump actually means. That's what he's doing. Here's another example. Now, last night, here on the campus of the University of California, Berkeley, I spent some time at a rally, a peaceful demonstration up until a certain point, against the person named Miles Yiannopoulos. I can never pronounce his last name very well, but he is a rabble-rouser, he's a provocateur, he is a misogynist, he's a racist, but he has a right to speak at the University of California, Berkeley. After all, this was the heart of the free speech movement, and that's why the university gave him, despite how vile his views are, and despite how outrageous his hate speech is, the university actually gave him an auditorium, very big and very central, the whole student union at the center of campus. So there was no question in Berkeley's mind that free speech came first. And then, what happened? Well, agitators, outside agitators, not our students, outside agitators, dressed in black, in fact, very disciplined, they began to threaten the crowd, they began to destroy property, and so the police said, no, we have to cancel this speech. Now, here's the thing. Donald Trump tweeted this morning, he said, if the University of California, Berkeley does not allow free speech and practices violence on innocent people with a different point of view, no federal funds, with a little question mark. You see what he's doing? Just like he did with the prayer breakfast. Donald Trump is accusing the University of California, Berkeley of violating free speech rights when in fact it was just the opposite. The University of California, Berkeley went out of its way to provide free speech rights to this fellow Yiannopoulos, who incidentally is affiliated with Breitbart News, which is Steve Bannon's project. That is Steve Bannon, the effective vice president of the United States. And in fact, there's even some reason to believe that these people in black uniforms, very well disciplined, who disrupted these agitators, they may very well have been from Yiannopoulos or Breitbart News or some group that wanted to disrupt and call in the police and make it seem as if Berkeley actually was not honoring free speech. What a perfect opportunity. What a perfect opportunity for Donald Trump to get on his high horse And what he's also doing in that particular tweet, you see, is he is intimidating. He's saying, no federal funds, as if he, Donald Trump, king, dictator Donald Trump, he has the ability to decide what universities are going to receive federal funds. He can decide when there was a violation of free speech, which, by the way, again, there was not last night. He can make those decisions. Tweet by intimidation. The opposite of free speech. In fact, every time Donald Trump has tweeted in order to intimidate a CEO or a company or individuals that criticize him or members of the press who criticize him, that is a direct assault on free speech. So here we have again, Donald Trump's technique is to act as if he is actually promoting a particular freedom under the Constitution when, in fact, he is doing exactly the opposite. Meanwhile, we now know he has been berating foreign leaders of foreign nations. Word came out today that when he talked to Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, he was incredibly rude. That is, Donald Trump was incredibly rude. He castigated Turnbull for a policy that Donald Trump did not like with regard to refugees. And beyond that, he, Donald Trump, boasted about how many votes he got in the election, what a big mandate he has from the American people, what a strong, how many people showed up for his inauguration. Again, lies, boasting, and at the same time berating a foreign leader of a foreign country, one of our best friends, by the way. I mean, Australia shares intelligence with the United States. Australians are out with Americans in the Middle East, trying to maintain the peace. Australia is one of our closest allies. So Donald Trump, without missing a beat, insults Australia. And apparently, according to people who have leaked this information, note how many leaks are coming out of the White House, by the way. A lot of people around Trump think he's out of his mind, and I'll come back to this in a moment. But according to these leaks, Trump has pulled the same stunt with many foreign leaders, berating them and bragging about the huge mandate he got from the American people. Obviously a lie. He didn't get any mandate. Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes, the popular vote. And in fact, there's a big cloud hanging over the legitimacy of Donald Trump because we don't even know the extent to which Russian operatives actually delivered the election to him. So, I have come to a conclusion, reluctantly. Now, we're only 10 days into the Trump administration, or maybe it's a little bit more, maybe it's 12 days. I'm losing count. There's so much interesting things to talk about, so many things to talk about. But a week and a half into the Trump administration, and we are seeing all sorts of depredations of constitutional rights, and at the same time, somebody who has the emotional intelligence of a 4-year-old in the Oval Office. Now, this poses a lot of dangers to the United States, and I don't even have to tell you how and how many. The violation of constitutional rights right up there at the start. I want to repeat again, I don't think any Supreme Court nominee of Donald Trump should be considered until we know he is the legitimate president of the United States. But beyond that, I do believe we have got to start a serious movement to impeach this dangerous tyrant. I say that not carelessly. I don't go around urging impeachment. But I think this is an extraordinary circumstance. This is not a normal man. It's not a normal situation. It's not a normal presidency. This is a crisis for the United States in many respects. I could have talked about 6 or 7 or 8 or a dozen other things that occurred today. This is not a news program. This is actually attempting to put in context what is happening. And what is happening and we see this again and again, is we have a demagogue, a dangerous demagogue as President of the United States. So I want to urge you all to keep pushing your members of Congress. You're doing a very, very, very important work and a great job. They are getting some backbone. The Democrats are starting to have a little bit of backbone. They need more. Keep pushing. Keep encouraging those who are doing the right job. Keep moving and being political, strategically political. And I want to just add to your list, and moving up on the hierarchy of things that you need to think about seriously, is trying to get this man impeached. By the way, Republicans are not going to go along with impeachment, at least for now. They will when Donald Trump's approval ratings among Republican voters start dropping considerably, and they will. They are starting to. They will start dropping a lot, because Republicans, what do they want? Republican members of Congress want to be reelected. And if they're in the Senate, Republican members in the Senate not only want to be reelected, but they want somebody who is sane in the White House. This is why Leslie Graham, Senator Leslie Graham, Republican, South Carolina, and also John McCain of Arizona, another Republican, have been putting the brakes, worrying openly about Donald Trump. Well, we ought to start worrying openly about his sanity. We ought to start worrying openly about the fact that he is not demonstrating behavior that suggests that he is hinged. He seems to be unhinged. And we ought to start worrying openly about our place in the world. I'm embarrassed for the United States. I've been saying to everybody I know in other countries, and I'll say it to you, and you pass it on if you know anybody outside the United States, we're doing everything we can. We understand the problem. So ends tonight's Resistance Report. I'll talk to you tomorrow.